questions or whatever you want to do. So again, good morning to everybody. For those guests, my name is Lynn Gardner. It's great to have you with us on our team call today. And, we put this call together a couple months ago, I think, in an attempt to try to draw our team together. We are spreading now from coast to coast, going all over the place, and hopefully to go global within our own group. So it's important, I think, to draw people together and to just kind of make them feel like they're part of a team. I got an email this morning from my closest 6A, Jack Stagman, who is in South Africa for the funeral of his father, and he's working on some sales while he's there. And I was thinking about how awesome it will be if he wants to pull those people into the team call so they can feel a little bit more connected than they'll otherwise feel, just getting a Skype call or whatever overseas. So thanks for being here, and welcome to the call. I have a couple of announcements to make for our local team group. I'll get through them very quickly. We do have the water awareness seminar that's coming up on this Sunday. We'll have it at between 2 and 4 p.m. and then again on Tuesday, March 22nd, 7 to 9 p.m. The press releases are out there. They're in the works, and I expect that we'll have a really good crowd. Just so you know, again, just as a reminder, I want you to know this is not your typical Enagic meeting. We're not going to be honing in on our technology so much. We're going to be talking about water problems and how it's time for us to take responsibility for the water that we're drinking. And of course, there will be some of our message filtered into that, but it's important to kind of have a neutral position as we raise the awareness and then hopefully be able to get people to get on board with our technology later on. I want you to feel free to come. It'd be great to have you there. It'd be great to have your support. Just keep in mind that we don't want to mill about and talk about how great our product is like we normally do. It would just be kind of a quiet message of support. If you want to be there, that would be fabulous. I keep getting asked for the opportunity call. You know that we have one that takes place Monday through Friday, 2 times a day. I've got the times here as Eastern, and it's a great call for prospects. When you're prospecting for business people, it's a great call for that. It's about 20-25 minutes long. The odd time there is because the intent is to get your people on before the hour, 5 minutes before the hour, and that way they can hear people calling in to what walks of life. I'm a teacher, I'm a nurse, whatever that is, and they can get a sense of how people are coming from all walks of life, from all over the world, really, to join us in this mission. So it's working fabulously. I'm hearing a lot of great results on that. So you want to try to tune in. If you haven't tuned in, you need to do it. If you don't tune in, you don't know what it is, and you don't know whether to offer it out there or not. So I would recommend twice a day. It's not recorded, and that is obviously, you've heard me preach this message a lot. It's all about getting people their live time. There's not the luxury of time when you're dealing with people for our business, and so we want them to feel like and to know that they're on a live call, so you need to get on there. Again, as a local reminder, we have a Monday night meeting here at the farm every Monday night at 7 p.m. We'd love to see you just start building synergy, bringing the guests to the farm. We know that, it's not convenient for everybody. We know that. People come from an hour and a half, 2 hours away. And as our team grows and as people see the format of a meeting, then of course they'll start their own. But right now, the goal is to just fill this house up, because the more people you have, the more synergy you have. And that synergy ends in positive things. Over the time since we first started this meeting a while back, we've seen the results at, a 98% sale rate, the people that come there. And that's not because they're at the farm. That's because they're surrounded by positive people in our business, and they're hearing testimonials and things like that. So you want to use it. We live in a metropolitan area where commuters commute an hour and a half each way every single day. So taking the time out to make a little bit of a drive for your business should be a no-brainer for you. So I hope you'll join us on Monday night at 7. And then, of course, we have the big event coming up here at the farm. It's basically like a Super Saturday, but a different style. October 8th and 9th, it is filling up fast. I cannot tell you enough and the local team how you need to be getting involved in this and make your commitment to show up, because it's so awesome to see people from California, Washington State, Indiana, North Carolina, Florida. I mean, they're coming into this, and we do have someone on our team. I'm very proud of this person that she has purchased 10 tickets. And, I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you doing 10 tickets? Because, she's just growing her business, and she said, I'm committed to be successful, and so I will need those tickets. I will have people there. So I just encourage you to get involved in it. It's going to be a fabulous event. I'm still working on confirmation of other speakers, but it's going to be phenomenal. So if you snooze, you're going to lose for sure. So I want to just bring forth a mini message to everybody this morning. I actually offered this out here recently, and it went over pretty well. And I think it's a good reminder for all of us, beginning with me actually. And it's on shaping your own success. Success is something in our industry that we really customize for ourselves. We are a team. We're not in business by ourselves, but we are in business for ourselves. So each one of us on this call, has our own business, and we need to be shaping that business for our success. It starts out with we create a vision, and then we define our why. Why are we doing this? What's the driving force behind why we're doing this? And then we determine what our financial future will look like, what we want it to look like. And then we set our goals to go in that direction. If we don't quit, and if we continually to grow us, and if we set those goals, then we'll be able to shape our success. In this business, this industry, our success really depends on a large part on the success of others, doesn't it? I mean, we could go about this business as a lone ranger and just go out and do our own thing, I guess, but it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to do that in our industry. The real growth and the real success and the real financial reward comes, largely by building a team. It's not like a corporate environment. When I was in corporate management, I was very particular about the team I had around me, but that whole goal, our whole mission, everybody on my team was, for the sake of making the company look good and the company be successful. And that's not what we have. We have to, in this business, if we want success, we need to develop others into success. We talk about leadership, and it's kind of funny because sometimes I'll be talking to people on the team about leadership, and some people almost curl up and go into the fetal position. Being a leader does not mean that you have to one day be front and center on the global stage. It doesn't mean you have to be a masterful speaker and you have to do all these things that you look at other leaders or the top leaders doing. That's not what it means. It means that you lead by example. And so we have to look at building a team, we have to look at shaping our success, and we have to look at leading the way. But you know what? It always starts with you. There are a few traits in that are universal, really, for people that achieve success in their life. And I'm going to go over a few of those. Outside of winning the lottery, which would be a ridiculously long shot for anybody, outside of that, it takes work. It always amazes me to hear people say, oh my gosh, this is hard work. Of course it's hard work. You're in business. Everything's hard work. But I would rather work hard for me and push me than I would to be on a payroll and worry about whether I'm going to have that job tomorrow if I don't work 80 hours today. So it's all worthwhile. So let's look at a couple of things that people do to build this. Whether you share my faith or not, I'm 100% confident that you've heard these words before. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that means really that you treat people the way you want to be treated. If you want respect, you need to extend respect. If you want people to be patient with you, you need to be patient with them. If you want compassion, you need to be compassionate out there. If you want commitment from people on your team, then you need to be committed. You see, people, they need to mirror what's around them. So in other words, in business, it means that you become the kind of leader that you want them to become. We can't sit back and be like a football coach and just bark out orders but never be on the field. We can't just sit back and give instructions and tell other people what they should be doing. We need to be doing what we want them to do. In my family, I chose to lead by example. Those of you that know me know that I was a single mom, 4 kids, that I found myself solo with them when they were 2, 4, 6, and 8. So you can only imagine. But I chose to lead by example. I was not one to say, do as I say, not as I do. I wanted to be the kind of person and to reflect that kind of person and character that I wanted them to be. So I chose to walk the walk and I talk the talk so that they would mirror my steps. And I told them often, especially as they matured, I would say, you need to be the kind of person that's worthy of the kind of person you want to spend your life with. You can't live a reckless, careless, crazy life and then expect to find a spiritually mature or a stable person. You've got to be walking that same walk yourself. And the same is true in our world. We need to be the kind of person or be the kind of leader that we want others to be. So the first thing we need to do is we need to lead ourselves. Nobody can do that for us. We can often whine and talk about what we want somebody else to do, or our leaders aren't doing this, or whatever. You need to put a lid on that and just stop it, because nobody can lead us but us. We have to start there. We need to accept the fact that we can't lead others to new heights or towards success until we reach it. And we recruit people on the team, and we'll say, oh my gosh, this is a 6A, and we expect so many wonderful things out of these people, but are we helping them or lead them there? And just like my family, if I lived a life that was different than the one I was telling them to live, my world would be filled with hypocrisy, and my family would be a disaster. Same's true in our business. If you're not walking the walk, you certainly can't expect them to. You've got to lead by example. So a true leader never asks people around them to do or to be anything that they're not willing to do or to be themselves. So whatever you're asking or whatever you're expecting of your team to do, then you need to do it. If you want people to be on this call, this team call, you need to be on the call. And you know what? You need to be sure that they know that you were. You need to be bragging it up. If you want people to come to meetings or to come to events, then you need to be sure you attend them yourself. And you need to be sure that they know that you were there. If you want people to bring guests to demos and meetings, then we need to be sure that we're bringing guests to demos and meetings. We can't just sit back and say, hey, where are all the people? We need to be doing it. If we want people to be positive and not negative, if we need to be sure that we're being positive and not negative. If we want people to fill themselves with good words of affirmation or good books or things that will work on improving themselves, then we need to be sure that we're doing the same thing, and we need to be willing to talk about it. You need to be telling people what you're doing. Nobody's got a crystal ball where they can look inside of your business or your character building process and know what you're doing unless you're talking about it. And if we want people to understand the error of their ways, when they get off track and maybe they're going in the wrong direction, then we need to be willing to share the errors of our ways, and so they don't repeat our mistakes. We can't just sit back and tell them the way to go. We need to tell them how it goes. And if we want people to edify one another, then we need to be sure that we're doing some edification on our own. So we need to be the kind of leader that we want them to be, and it always starts with us. We need to take the steps towards success that we want them to take. Lead by example, and it begins with us. And then we need to be honest with ourselves, brutally honest with ourselves. And that doesn't mean that, you're so brutal with yourself that you take yourself to a point where you don't even like you anymore. That's not what that means. But, unless we can take a real clear, honest look within ourselves, we can't change anything. It means that we make the decision to refuse to run away from an honest evaluation of ourselves. It's not fun looking inside of ourselves. Believe me, I know I've gone through some, harsh times over the last couple of years of really evaluating who I am and where I am and what I need to change to be successful in this business. But if we aren't willing to look at ourselves with 20/20 vision, we can't expect it to find success because we don't know what we need to work on. So we need to be willing to look at it, and we need to look for and seek out feedback. And I'm talking about honest, sincere, compassionate feedback. So we need to honestly evaluate ourselves, and we need to look out for that feedback. And it's only when we can embrace the truth that we can become a better version of ourselves. That's what all this self-improvement talk is all about. It's all about always seeking to be a better version of you. And unless we can embrace the truth, that's never going to happen. And it's when we think we know it all, guys, as a warning here, when we think we've arrived, when we think we've matured enough, we've grown enough, we've been there, we've done that, we got the t-shirt. It's when we take on that attitude that we can absolutely look for failure. You will not grow in life. You will not succeed beyond where you are if you think you've already accomplished it all. We are all a work in progress. Every day that we breathe, we're a work in progress. So we have to be willing to take that honest look and always be willing to grow it. And it begins with you and the look at you. And then we really need to learn from failures. If you talk to immensely successful people in life, they don't see failure as failure. They see failure as an opportunity to learn. So we need to accept that every single thing happens for a purpose. Whether you share my faith or not, it doesn't matter. You still have to understand it's a universal law that everything happens, for a reason. And so we need to accept those failures or those setbacks as a way to pursue our success. They're unavoidable. If we're putting one foot in front of the other in life, whether it's your family or in a marriage or in the business, as long as you're putting one foot in front of the other, you absolutely are going to see some failures because you're moving. And so you have to accept the fact that that's what happens. And we need to be willing to and look for those things, those failures and setbacks, and figure out how we could learn from them, acknowledging the failure and the setbacks, but refusing to accept them, refusing to look at them, refusing to understand why or try to be better because of it, means that you won't be successful. So allow failures to redefine your efforts. That's very, very different than allowing your failures to define you. Allow them to redefine your efforts. It's a great way to learn and to grow. And I tell you, some of you know me personally, and you've known me for a long time, and I've had some crazy failures and adversity in my life. And I can't say that I would want to push the replay button because it was painful. Most things, some of these things most of you would never want to know. But I can say I'm grateful for them because I really like the character that it built in me. I like who I am. I like the heart I have. And so I've been able to look at those failures, those setbacks, and learn from them. And that's the same thing that we have to do in our business. And then we need to constantly be building up. Well, the most important thing to be constantly building up is you. You need to think good things, speak good things, be good things. Don't allow yourself to talk yourself into defeat. Again, if you're inclined to look at failure as failure, you will sell yourself on being a failure. So don't get in that place where you question your own performance or you discourage yourself from moving forward, because that's not what's intended for you in life. Good things are intended for you. But so you can't allow that to own you. It doesn't define who you are. And you don't want to deter yourself from your goals. If you say, well, every time I do this, this happens. Well, I talk to people and they don't call me back. All those things, guys, just learn from it. If you're out prospecting and you call people and they never call you back, maybe it's what you're saying. Maybe you're not calling enough. You need to look at those things. It's just not, you're not repelling life, okay? You need to look at yourself honestly, look at the failures, look at what's not working, and be willing to accept those things and change those things. But we need to be constructive with ourselves and compassionate with ourselves all the time. Be true to yourself. And this isn't a, kind of a love yourself kind of message, but it's very important that you understand that you are worthy of good things. And if you remember that, then those failures never really get to you. You're just redefining your future. And so we need to do that. And then we need to own our own responsibilities. So you have to realize that events don't always lead to outcome. It just doesn't. They don't lead to outcome all the time. So we need to factor in our responsibility or our response to things and how it plays out. Take responsibility, man up. You got to take responsibility. So if it's leading in the direction you want it to go in, then you need to take responsibility and try to change that. You need to own it and learn from it and grow from it. And don't blame another person. Don't blame you. Don't look for all these excuses because they show a lack of responsibility and they'll thwart your success. Don't be blaming everybody else and don't be blaming yourself. Just time to step up and take responsibility. So shape even the most challenging situations into a positive experience, because that's how we learn lessons for us. And so, see, guys, it really does start with us. We have a tendency in life when we see disappointment or things aren't going quite the way we want them to. It's so easy to look out there and point a finger and expect somebody else to be doing it for us, or it's easy to bark out orders and tell everybody how you want them to do their business. The hard part comes when we look at ourselves. It really does begin with us. And when we can focus on us and being the best us that we can be, and being, transparent and honest and real, take responsibility, then we understand that we will be developing ourselves into exactly what we want people to mirror. So that's my short message on shaping your success this morning. If anybody has anything that they would like to add to that or comment on, please raise your hand. I'll unmute you one by one. We have a lot of people on this call at this point, so I can't unmute all of the lines. But if you would like to say a few words on that, then I'm more than happy to unmute you so you can. Anybody out there? We've got such a quiet crowd this morning. Okay, Mike Cassidy.
Man, that was a fantastic job as usual, and you covered a lot of points. But a couple of comments that I want to make is, the foundation of this whole message here is that we all need to be real. Right. A lot of people come into this business and they try to pretend that they're something that they're not. And if they just, acknowledge who they are, what they're trying to do, and what their purpose is here, I think it goes a whole lot further than trying to, show that you're an expert on something.
I think
Really, none of us are experts, but we do know some things that can make a huge difference in people's lives, and we need to focus in on just carrying that message forward, and I think it will work better for everybody.
well, I think that's excellent feedback. You're right. We try to pretend. If you take that into a personal parallel, again, if you go back to your family, you're raising your children, how many times I've heard people, for instance, I deal a lot with single moms over the years, and they'd be out, drinking and finding, new men to date and stuff like that, and then their home falls apart and they can't figure out why, Well, you got to be real with yourself, like Mike was saying, and just, you don't know everything. You're not perfect. We're not going to ever reach perfection this side of heaven. But as long as we can be real and confess what's wrong and work on what's wrong, there aren't any limits to where we can go and what we can be in this life or in this business. And so that's an excellent point, Mike. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? Maybe I stepped on toes. I hope not. Well, actually, I hope so. Because that's how we grow. Okay, let's see. I'm going to unmute Brenda. Yes, Brenda. Are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can now, yes.
Message pops up. Yeah, this is right on target for me because I've been reading John Maxwell's book called The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth.
Uh-huh.
And one of the laws the first law that he teaches is called the Law of Individuality. And we talk about growing and what we want to do for our team. And I passed this on to one of my team members last year, and I don't know if they've read it yet or not, but it is something that I thought, in order to be a leader, you're right, you got to grow yourself first. And he talks about actually putting a plan in place to grow yourself, because if we just talk about it and say we're going to do it without something in place intentionally, it'll never happen. So this is really good.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that, boy. You're studying from the master. Maxwell is phenomenal, and you're right. Yeah, it does. Everything always begins with us, whether it's our walk as a Christian, our parenting, our business. It always, begins with us. So thank you for sharing that. And you do have to have a plan. You have to, in this world, that's kind of easy to define. I have my why, my vision. I know where I want to go. What do I need to do to get there? And then be willing to do whatever it takes to get there. And so it's kind of set out for us in this business, where if we've taken those steps that we're told to take, to develop that vision and that why and our goals, then it kind of comes into place. But thanks for sharing. And I see Pat Cassidy, so I'm going to unmute you here, Pat. All right, good. Are you with us?
Yes, good morning, Lynn. Just a couple of quick things. First of all, what you said about we're all learning is extremely important, because we all need to acknowledge that. And, when we think that we know it all, that's when we really do get in trouble. So,
Right.
So we need to keep our antennas up, and we need every day to evaluate what we're doing. And one thing that new people and people that have been in the business for a while need to do, they need to find a team member.
Mm-hmm.
And every time they do something, if they go out and they do a demonstration, they need to evaluate what they did. They need to debrief. They need to go through the whole presentation, what went really good, what went really bad. And that's where the real learning comes in. So whether it's bad or it's good, it can be an incredible learning process if you do it right. And that's why it's so valuable and so important to find a team member. And because basically what we're doing is creating teams of people to help us go forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can get our mindset around that, is that you can't do it by yourself. This is something that's not an individual sport. You need people, you need a team, and as you put teams together and as you learn together, that's when incredible things happen. So anyway, I want to congratulate you on just some very, very important points this morning for people to think about.
Oh, thank you, Pat. Thanks for those words. That's so true. That we need to evaluate. And yeah, you made me think about, a team sport, like you said. I mean, you don't play the game and then you always have to recap the game. What did we do wrong? What did we do right? We want to repeat the rights. We don't want to do the wrongs again. And the same is true again. And guys, what we're doing as we develop ourselves is we're developing ourselves for every aspect of our life. It's not just the business. And we've seen, unless we're willing to own up and to look at it, evaluate, you'll see that, for instance, when I do a webinar out there outside of this team call, or, an Omar call, I'm looking for feedback. I want to know, was that impactful? Did I offer you what you wanted me to offer you, And so it's important. I know we talked about in our Monday night meeting about having time for what we call, I think, peer-to-peer counseling or something like that. And that's a really good idea. It really is, that we can toss ideas and try to, to grow one another. But if you have somebody that's not there hands-on, when I say to you, hey, Pat, what was the conversation like? The way you recall it to me is not going to probably be the way it really was. And so it's really important to involve other people in the business. It's so crazy to try to do this on your own, and I am very transparent. I get criticized actually because I'll man up to my mistakes, and I'll tell people, don't make the business hard like I did. I can't impress upon you enough everything I did wrong and how I wanted to be on the island. I didn't need anybody. I was smart and accomplished and successful. I didn't, all that stuff in my past didn't matter at all, because that was the past, and this is a whole new game that I didn't know anything about. And so, we can learn from one another, and the way that we learn is we involve them, and pick somebody to work with, a team, and involve your sponsors, and do the 3 ways, and do all of these things. Why would you want to be a lone ranger, and how can you possibly keep yourself up if you're always out there knocking around by yourself? You're always trying to figure out the words to say. It's not coming to fruition. Because I can tell you one thing I do know, before I was in this business, if you're out there and you're prospecting and you're doing those things that you're called to do, and you're doing them over and over and over, and there's no fruit coming from it, you ain't doing it right. Okay. And so you need to regroup that. You can't just say, well, I gave water to 50 people, and I prospected 100 people last weekend, and then you'd never see anything. That's not possible. It goes against the law of physics. It can't happen. So whatever you're doing, you're not doing it right. So don't you want to get it right? Don't you want those efforts to equate to something positive for you? The only way you're going to do that is if you humble yourself and bring other people onto the team with you, so that you can get feedback from them as well. So that was a great point, Pat. Anybody else out there? Mike's back on. Hold on, I'll unmute you. Okay, Mike, you're unmuted.
Yeah, Lynn, you brought up a great point there about it doesn't really matter what you've done in the past and how accomplished you've been in another field. This is a completely different field from being a lawyer, being a doctor, driving a truck, working for the post office,
Right.
whatever. And there's a learning curve that you have to go through, and there's a paradigm shift that you have to make in your mindset to do this business effectively. So that's one of the biggest hurdles I see for people to get over is making that paradigm shift from selling something to building a team.
Yes.
If you may be great at selling things and you can make money doing that in this business, but every day you've got to get up and do it again.
Right.
You never build that residual. You never take advantage of the full power that we have with this type of business plan. So, it's tough to master that team building concept and to get people to duplicate. But the key here is to keep it as simple as you can while still being effective, so that more and more people can do it. And that's the way you build the team and really make things work.
It is. Yeah, thanks for that. You're so right about that. And I can't say it enough, again, from my experience, that, I came into this, with my ego and my whole, file of success. And that's great. I mean, no, I was at the top of my game. I had a wonderful ride, okay? But it's a new day. and it's a new game. And some of those gifts and talents that I had, from the past, and I can bring them forward. But the practical side, all the things that it takes to build this kind of business, total paradigm shift, and it took me a long time, a hard head, and I missed out on a lot of success because of it. So guys, there's no way around that. And you could be out there, like Mike said, just being a salesperson. I mean, there are plenty of people that are salespeople. I think personally that went against me because I had been in a service sales industry, and so I really had to retrain a lot of things. You're really great. It's better off starting out with a clean slate, believe me. But I think those people that are out there just doing it by themselves, never building a team, quite frankly, I think they've missed the whole mission, the mission of Enagic, and that's spreading true health globally with compassion. How compassionate are you if you're just doing one-on-one sales? You never involve anybody. You really don't care what happens after you install that unit. How compassionate are you? And is it because you're not willing to work on you? Maybe you don't want a team. Well, why wouldn't you want a team? I think that's a character flaw. You got to look at why don't I want to be around other people? Why do they annoy me? Whatever your excuse is, you need to get over it, because I really think that if you're out there working it like that, if you're out there working it like that by default because nobody else is moving forward and it's just you, there are two things probably going on. Number one, we're not focused on finding business builders, and number two, you're probably not leading. And if you're not leading, they're not going to follow. Okay, you can't just say, oh, you're going to be great. Give them a couple of brochures, pat them on the fanny, and tell them to go make you money. It doesn't work that way. So if you're not seeing, whatever we're not seeing is probably a direct result of what we're not doing. And so we've got to lead by example. You want a team, you got to start leading. Again, I want to be sensitive to the fact that I know, because I've talked to too many people to say, I don't want to be a leader. I don't want the responsibility. Guys, being a leader, you're a leader if you have a family, okay? Being a leader doesn't mean you have to do all these high profile things. Again, it doesn't mean that you're going to be dragged onto the global stage one day in front of 5,000 people. That's not what it means. It means that your character is the right character that people want to mirror. That's what it means. And how can that be wrong in life? That's what you should want to be for your family. You should want to be for your mate. You should want to be for your friends. You should want to be for your God. And you certainly should want to be for the people in this business. So it all comes down to that. There's no way around that. If you're not seeing the results, if you're not building the team, then there's a reason for it. And so really it always starts with us. Anybody else? Well, it looks like, again, we got a quiet group this morning, but a massive group, by the way, so the word definitely got out there, and I thank you to our local team for your patience and me just unmuting you out. For those visitors, we like to keep a little bit more of an open dialogue because we want people to feel like this is their call. But I guess I'm going to conclude it now. It is being recorded. It will be sent out to everybody that's on this call. And thank you for being with us today. And I'll tell you, I'm just going to unmute everybody locally here and let everybody say a last word of goodbye. Have a good day. So long. Drink your coffee, whatever it is you'd like to say. And then we'll just conclude the call. Thank you all for being on the call.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, Lynn, thank you. Thank you for a great call. Great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Once again, it's a wonderful message.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. Thanks for being on the call. You guys have a blessed day, and go put it to work and go work on you, and I'll work on me. Have a great day. God bless you.
Okay, Lynn. Thanks.
Thanks.